Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. We're here in live studios at 51 Hemkund Colony in the middle of Delhi at the residence of Ananta Rupa Prabhu and Yamuna Pavani Mataji. And we're kind of recovering from our jet lag and relishing the company and the prasad, the atmosphere here in Ananta Rupa's place. Today is a very special day. It's Ekadashi, and by Krishna's arrangement, tonight we start the Rasa Panchadhyaya, the 5 chapters that describe Krishna, Rasa Gyan, intimate chapters of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, and chapters that persons who are not very deep sometimes jump, read, and dwell on these chapters at the expense of other chapters. So, hearing the Rasa Panchadhyaya from Srila Prabhupada or from Srila Prabhupada's intimate disciples who finished the Bhagavatam and did these chapters, protect us from there's many quotes from Srila Prabhupada's Krishna book, for instance, from his other purports in other parts of the Bhagavatam which discussed this subject. So we should stay safe at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. That's my vow to all of the devotees, to try to awaken their taste for hearing from Srila Prabhupada, from literally associating with Srila Prabhupada through the sound of his purports and teachings and loyal disciples. The material world is a dangerous place, especially this Kali Yuga. There's so many opportunities to become misled, especially now that the internet is so prominent and everyone puts whatever they think out there in very nicely put and very nicely set up websites. But I am convinced personally that if we just stay with Srila Prabhupada's books and let him guide us back to the lotus feet of Krishna, to Goloka Vrindavan, then we will be safe from any kind of deviation or any kind of false authorities. Only one person spread pure Krishna consciousness, excuse my voice, around the world, and that was our beloved Srila Prabhupada, the founder and charge of this International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So, yesterday we read the summary of the 29th chapter, which is the first chapter of the Rasa Panchadhyaya. Now we will start the actual verses themselves. But before we do, let's hear Sanatana Goswami's description of the Srimad-Bhagavatam and glorification of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is also meant to keep us safe. It's called Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram. It comes in Sri Krishna Lila Stava, a book that Sanatana Goswami wrote after he wrote the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. And it appears there as verses 412 to 416. And it goes like this. Sarva Shastabdipi Yusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad-Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwanduditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad-Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguru Man Mahadana Man Nishtadaga Mad Bhagya Mad Anandana Mostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Sadhu, sadhu tadayin, adini chochita kada, hanamun chagadachin mam, premnaren kantayospuda. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 29. Sri Badarayani said, Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full in all opulences. Yet upon seeing those autumn nights scented with blossoming jasmine flowers, he turned his mind towards loving affairs. To fulfill his purposes, he employed his internal potency. Purport. As we begin the famous narration of Lord Krishna's Rasa dance, a dance of love with beautiful young girls, questions will inevitably arise in the minds of ordinary people regarding the propriety of God's romantic dancing with many young girls in the middle of a full moon autumn night. In this description of the Lord's Rasa dance, in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada painstakingly explains the spiritual purity of these transcendental activities. Those advanced in the science of Krishna, the great teachers or acharyas, leave no doubt that Lord Krishna is full and satisfied in himself, free of all material desire, which is, after all, a sense of incompleteness or lack. Materialistic persons and impersonal philosophers stubbornly reject the bona fide explanation of Sri Krishna's transcendental nature. There is no reason to deny the beautiful reality of an absolute person able to perform absolute romantic activities of which our so-called romance is merely a shadow or perverted reflection. The irrational insistence that material activities cannot be a reflection of the perfect spiritual activities performed by God reflects the unimaginative emotional disposition of those who oppose the reality of Sri Krishna. This psychological disposition of the non-devotees, the very existence of the absolute person, what may be succinctly described as envy, since the overwhelming majority of the impersonal critics eagerly pursue their own romantic affairs, which they considered quite real, and even, quote, spiritual, end quote. The actual supreme lover is Lord Krishna. The Vedanta Sutra begins by declaring that the absolute truth is the source of everything, and even Western philosophy was born in a somewhat awkward attempt at finding the original one behind the apparent many of material existence. Conjugal love, one of the most intense and demanding aspects of human existence, can hardly have nothing at all to do with supreme reality. In fact, the conjugal love experienced by human beings is a mere reflection of spiritual reality in which the same love exists in an absolute, pristine state. Thus, it is clearly stated here that when Krishna decided to enjoy the romantic atmosphere at autumn, he resorted to his spiritual potency, yogamayam upashritaha. Excuse me. The spiritual nature of Lord Krishna's conjugal affairs is a major theme in this section of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. A woman is attractive because of the sweet sound of her voice, her beauty and gentleness, her enchanting fragrance and tenderness, and also because of her cleverness and skill in music and dance. The most attractive ladies of all are the young Gopis of Vrindavan, who are Lord Krishna's internal potency. And this chapter tells how he enjoyed their brilliant feminine qualities, even though, as Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur has mentioned, Lord Krishna was an 8-year-old boy when these events took place. Ordinary people prefer God simply to be a witness of their romantic affairs. When a boy desires a girl or a girl desires a boy, sometimes they pray to God for their enjoyment. Such people are shocked and dismayed to find out that the Lord can enjoy his own loving affairs with his own transcendental senses. In truth, Sri Krishna is the original Cupid, and his exciting conjugal pastimes will be described in this section of the Bhagavatam. When Lord Krishna descends to the earth, his spiritual body seems to take birth and grow as he displays his variegated pastimes. The Lord could hardly allow his boyhood to pass without exhibiting the supreme loving affairs between a young boy and young girls. Thus, Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur quotes Srila Rupa Goswami as follows: Kaishoram sapali kadoti kalayan kunje viharam harihi. Lord Hari perfects his youth by arranging loving pastimes in the groves of the Vrindavan forest. Text 2. The moon then rose, anointing the face of the eastern horizon with the reddish hue of his comforting rays, and thus dispelling the pain of all who watched him rise. The moon was like a beloved husband who returns after a long absence and adorns the face of his beloved wife with red kumkum. Purport. Young Krishna engaged his internal potency, and she immediately created an exciting atmosphere for conjugal love. Text 3. Lord Krishna saw the unbroken disk of the full moon glowing with the red effulgence of newly applied vermilion, as if it were the face of the goddess of fortune. He also saw the Kumuda lotuses opening in response to the moon's presence, and the forest gently illumined by its rays. Thus the Lord began to play sweetly on his flute, attracting the minds of the beautiful-eyed Gopis. Purport. The word jagao in this verse indicates that Lord Krishna played songs on his flute, as confirmed in text 40 by the words ka, striyanga, te kalapadai yatavenu gita. The word Rama may indicate not only Lord Vishnu's consort, but also Srimati Radharani, the original goddess of fortune. Lord Krishna appeared in the dynasty of the moon god, and the moon plays a prominent role here in preparing for the Lord's entrance into the midst of the Rasa dance. Text 4. When the young women of Vrindavan heard Krishna's flute song, which arouses romantic feelings, their minds were captivated by the Lord. They went to where their lover waited, each unknown to the others, moving so quickly that their earrings swung back and forth. Purport. Apparently each gopi went secretly, hoping to avoid advertising to her rivals the fact that young Krishna was in the mood for romantic affairs. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti poetically describes the situation as follows. Krishna instigated a terrible act of thievery in Vrindavan when he played on his flute. The song of his flute entered through the ears of the gopis into the inner treasure chamber of their hearts. That wonderful music stole all their most valuable possessions, their sobriety, shyness, fear, and discrimination, along with their very minds. And in a split second, this music delivered all these goods to Krishna. Now each gopi went to beg the Lord to return her personal property. Each beautiful young girl was thinking, I have to capture that great thief. And thus they went forward, each unknown to the others. Text 5. Some of the gopis were milking cows when they heard Krishna's flute. They stopped milking and went off to meet him. Some left milk curdling on the stove, and others left cakes burning in the oven. Purport. The eagerness of these cowherd girls, so lovingly devoted to Lord Krishna, is shown here. Text 6 and 7. Some of them were getting dressed, feeding milk to their infants, or rendering personal service to their husbands. But they all gave up these duties and went to meet Krishna. Other gopis were taking their evening meals, rubbing their bodies with cleansing oils, putting on cosmetics, or applying kajal to their eyes. But all the gopis stopped these activities at once, and though their clothes and ornaments were in complete disarray, rushed off to Krishna. Text 8. Their husbands, fathers, brothers, and other relatives tried to stop them, But Krishna had already stolen their hearts. Enchanted by the sound of his flute, they refused to turn back. Purport. Some of the young gopis were married, and their husbands tried to stop them. The unmarried girls had to deal with their fathers and brothers and other relatives. None of these relatives would have ordinarily allowed even the young girls' dead bodies to go alone into the forest at night. But Lord Krishna had already engaged his internal potency, and thus the entire romantic episode unfolded without interference. Text 9. Some of the gopis, however, could not manage to get out of their houses, and instead they remained home with eyes closed, meditating upon him in pure love. Purport. Throughout the 10th canto, Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur gives elaborate poetic commentaries on Lord Krishna's pastimes. It is not always possible to include these extensive descriptions, but we will quote in its entirety his comments on this verse. It is our sincere recommendation to the learned Vaishnava community that a qualified devotee of the Lord present the entire commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti on the 10th canto as a separate book, which will undoubtedly be appreciated by devotees and non-devotees alike. The Acharya's comments on this verse are as follows. In this context, we will make our analysis according to the method described in Srila Rupa Goswami's Ujjvala Nilamani. There are two categories of gopis: the eternally perfect, the Nitya Siddhas, and those who have become perfect by practicing Bhakti Yoga, the Sadhana Siddhas. The Sadhana Siddhas are of two categories: those who belong to special groups and those who do not. And there are also two classes of the gopis belonging to special groups, namely the Shruticharis, who come from the group of the personified Vedas, and the Rishicharis, who come from the group of sages who saw Lord Ramachandra in the Dandakaranya forest. This same fourfold categorization of the gopis is given in the Padma Purana. Gopyas tu Shutayogyeya Rishija Gopakanyakaha Devakanyas Chirajendra Na Manusha Katanchana. It is understood that some of the gopis are personified Vedic literatures, while others are reborn sages, daughters of cowherds, or demigod maidens. But by no means, my dear king, are any of them ordinary humans. Here we are informed that although the gopis appeared to be human cowherd girls, actually they were not. Thus, the contention that they are mortals is refuted. The daughters of the cowherds, referred to here as Gopakanyas, must be eternally perfect, since we never hear of them having executed any sadhana. Their apparent sadhana of worshipping goddess Katyayani in the role of the gopis merely manifests their manner of playing like human beings. And the Bhagavatam narrates the account of this worship only to show how they had fully taken on the role of cowherd girls. That the Gopakanya gopis are actually Nitya Siddhas, eternally perfect devotees of the Lord, is established by a statement in Brahma Samhita 537. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabi, which proves that they are the Lord's spiritual pleasure potency. Similarly, we have the words of the Gautamiya Tantra, Ladiniya Mahashakti. Further corroboration of their eternal perfection is that these gopis, being co-eternal with Lord Krishna, their lover, are mentioned along with him in the 18-syllable mantra, the 10-syllable mantra, and others, and also that the worship of these mantras and also the shrutis that present them have been in existence since beginningless time. The Devakanyas, daughters of the demigods, who are mentioned in the verse beginning, Sambhavas Tvamara Striya, are explained in Sri Ujjvala Nilamani as partial expansions of the gopis who are eternally perfect. That the Shruti-chari gopis, the personified Vedas, are sadhana siddha is understood from the following words of theirs, quoted in the Brihad Vamana Purana. Kandarpakoti lavanye tvayi drishte manangshinaha kamani bhavamasadya smarachubdanya sangshayaha yata tval lokavasinya kamatatmena gopikaha bhajanti ramanam matma chikirsha janinastata. Since we have seen your face, which possesses the beauty of millions of cupids, our minds have become lusty after you, like those of young girls, and we have forgotten all other allurements. You have developed the desire to act toward you. We have developed the desire to act toward you, as do the gopis who dwell on your transcendental planet and who are manifest by the nature of Cupid, by worshipping you with the idea that you are their paramour. The Rishi-chari gopis are also sadhana siddha, as stated in the Ujjvala Nilamani. Gopalopakasak purvam Gopalopasaka purvam aprapta bhishta siddhayaha. Previously, they were all maharshis living in the Dandaka forest. We find evidence for this in the Padma Purana, Uttarakanda. Drishtva Ramam Harim Tatra Bhoktum Aichan Suvigraham Te Sarve Stritvamapana Samudbhavas Chagokule Harim Samprapya Kamena Tato Bhukta Bhavar Nivat. This verse says that upon seeing Lord Ramachandra, the sages in the Dandaka forest desired to enjoy Lord Hari, Krishna. In other words, the sight of Lord Rama's beauty reminded them of Lord Hari, Gopal, their personal object of worship, and they wanted to enjoy with him. But out of embarrassment, they did not act on that desire, whereupon Lord Sri Rama, who was like a desire tree, gave his mercy to them, even though they had not voiced their request. Thus their desire was fulfilled, as stated by the words beginning Te Sarve. By means of their lusty attraction, they became freed from the ocean of material existence, the cycle of birth and death, and coincidentally, they got the association of Hari in conjugal love. In the present verse of the Bhagavatam, we understand that it was the gopis who had children who were kept forcibly at home. This fact is clear from verses yet to come. Matadak pitadak putra, Bhagavatam 10:29-20. Yat patya patya soridam anuvritir anga, Bhagavatam 10:29-32. And Patisutan Vaya Brartri Bandhavan 10:31-16. In his comments on the 10th canto, Srila Kavi Kanapur Goswami mentions this fact. Without trying to repeat all his thoughts on this verse, we will give the gist of his purport. Upon seeing the personal form of Lord Sri Ramachandra, the sages who were worshippers of Lord Gopal immediately became elevated to the mature platform of spontaneous devotion, automatically reaching the stages of firm faith, attraction, and attachment. But they had not yet completely freed themselves from all material contamination. Therefore, Sri Yogamaya Devi arranged for them to take birth from the wombs of gopis and become cowherd girls. By associating with the eternally perfect gopis, some of these new gopis fully manifested Purva Raga, loving attraction for Krishna, as soon as they reach puberty. This kind of attraction develops even before one meets the beloved. When these new gopis got the direct audience of Krishna and physically associated with him, all their remaining contamination became burned up, and they achieved the advanced stages of prema, sneha, and so on. Even though they were in the company of their cowherd husbands, by the power of Yogamaya, the gopis remained unsullied by sexual contact with them. Rather, they were situated in purely spiritual bodies that Krishna enjoyed. On the night they heard the sound of Krishna's flute, their husbands tried to stop them. But by the merciful assistance of Yogamaya, the sadhana siddha gopis were able to go forth to their beloved, together with the nitya siddha gopis. Other gopis, however, because of not getting the good fortune of associating with the nitya siddha gopis and other advanced gopis, had not achieved the stage of prema, and so their contamination was not completely burned away. They entered the company of their cowherd husbands, and after sexual union with them, gave birth to children. But a short time later, even these gopis developed their purva rag by hankering intensely for the physical association of Krishna. A hankering they acquired by associating with the advanced gopis. Becoming worthy recipients of the mercy of the perfected gopis, they assumed transcendental bodies fit to be enjoyed by Krishna. And when Yogamaya failed to help them overcome their husbands' attempts to keep them from going out, they felt themselves cast into the worst calamity. Viewing their husbands, brothers, fathers, and other family members as enemies, they came close to dying, just as other women might remember their mothers or other relatives at the time of death. These gopis remembered the sole friend of their very life, Krishna, as stated in the present verse of the Bhagavatam, beginning with the word antar. You shut the door so the barking doesn't come in. It is implied that those ladies were not able to exit because they were held back by their husbands, who were standing before them with sticks in their hands, scolding them. Although these gopis were perpetually absorbed in love for Krishna, at that particular time they meditated upon him and cried out within, "Alas, alas, O only friend of our life, O ocean of the artistic skills of Vrindavan forest, please let us become your girlfriends in some future life, because at this time we cannot see your lotus-like face with our eyes. So be it. We shall look upon you with our minds." Each of them lamenting to herself in this way, the gopis stood with their eyes shut and meditated deeply upon him. Text 10 and 11. For those gopis who could not go to see Krishna, intolerable separation from their beloved caused such intense agony that burned away all impious karma. By meditating upon him, they felt exhausted their material piety. Although Lord Krishna is the Supreme Soul, these girls simply thought of him as their male lover and associated with him in that intimate mood. Thus, their karmic bondage was nullified and they abandoned their gross material bodies. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti comments upon this verse as follows. Here, Shukadev Goswami speaks in a peculiar way. He presents the intimate object the gopis attained as if it were an external idea, thus keeping its true nature secret from outsiders. While at the same time, he reveals to the confidential devotees, well versed in the scientific conclusions of devotional service, the internal meaning that is his real purport. Thus, to outsiders, Shukadev says that Krishna gave the gopis liberation, but to the confidential hearers, Shukadev reveals that when the gopis experienced separation from their beloved, there arose in them both immeasurable happiness, unhappiness, and immeasurable happiness, and that they gradually achieved their desired goal. Thus, the verse can be understood as follows. Because of their intolerable separation from their beloved, the gopis felt terrible agony, by which they caused all inauspicious things to tremble. In other words, when people in general hear of the gopis' extreme agony and separation from their beloved, they abandoned thousands of inauspicious things even as fearsome as the subterranean fires of millions of universes, or the powerful poison swallowed by Lord Shiva. More specifically, those who hear of the gopis' love and separation give up their terrible false ego, and thinking themselves defeated, are shaken. When the gopis meditated on Lord Achyuta, he became manifest and personally came to them, and they experienced great joy by embracing his body, which was full of transcendental love for them. The gopis also experienced great joy by exhibiting personal characteristics and a sense of identification appropriate to such love. That joy made all their good fortune, both material and spiritual, seem paltry by comparison. The implication is that when other persons see how happy the gopis became upon embracing Krishna, when he manifested himself directly before them, these other persons feel that thousands of so-called auspicious objects are insignificant by comparison, including all these sense-gratificatory pleasures found in millions of universes, and even the super-sensory pleasure of spiritual bliss, Brahmananda. Thus, hearing of the gopis' distress and the joy that arose, respectively, out of their separation from the Supreme Lord and their union with him, anyone can get rid of all the reactions of his past activities, both sinful and pious. Vaishnavas certainly do not think that sinful and pious reactions can be destroyed only by being lived out, since after all, neither separation from the Supreme Lord nor direct association with him is in the category of karma. This kind of elimination of karmic reactions occurs in the stage of bhajan for those who have come to the level of anartha nivritti. And thus the gopis thought of Krishna, the Paramatma, or supreme worthy object of all love, as their paramour. Even though such a concept is ordinarily contemptible, the Gopis realized Krishna in an even fuller sense than did Rukmini and his other queens, who thought of him most respectfully as their husband. That thinking of the Lord as one's paramour is superior to thinking of him as one's husband is proved by the fact that unbridled, pure love is superior to domesticated love. This idea is born out of the following words of Sri Uddhava. Ya dushyajam swajanam aryapatam chahitva. These ladies of Braja abandon their families and their advanced religious principles, even though to do so is very difficult. 1047-61. In his pastimes on earth, Krishna often turns the most lowly things into the most elevated. As Bhishma stated, Krishna's pastime of acting as Arjuna's chariot driver was even more elevated than the pastimes in which he acted as the mighty king of kings. Vijaya Rata Kutumba Atatotre Drityahaya Rashmini Touch Triyek Shaniye. I concentrate upon the chariot driver of Arjuna, who stood with a whip in his right hand and a bridle rope in his left, and who was very careful to protect Arjuna's chariot by all means. Bhagavatam 1.9.39. Krishna, we see that the normally inferior conjugal rasa becomes better than the normally superior mood of Shanta rasa, as also the attitude of loving a paramour becomes superior to the loving exchange between legitimate spouses, and lowly gunja necklaces, red oxide paste, and peacock feathers become better than the most excellent jeweled ornaments. But it may be objected, it is not fitting for the Supreme Lord to sport with women. This objection is replied to by the words beginning Jahu. The word Deham is used here in the singular form to indicate unity of category, even though the gopis are many. Some authorities say that by the power of Yogamaya, these gopis' bodies disappeared in a way no one noticed. But other authorities say that the body referred to in this context is the inferior body, composed of the modes of material nature. Thus, by the prominence of the adjective gunamayam, it is understood that before the gopis heard the sound of Krishna's flute, their bodies had been twofold, material and spiritual, and upon hearing the flute, they gave up the material bodies which their husbands had enjoyed. We may analyze this as follows. When devotees begin prosecuting devotional service, in accordance with the instructions of a bona fide spiritual master, they engage their ears and other senses in pure devotion by hearing of the Lord, chanting His glories, remembering Him, offering obeisances to Him, giving Him personal attendance, and so forth. Thus the devotees make the Lord's transcendental qualities the objects of their senses, as stated by the Lord Himself, Nirguno mad apashrayaha, Bhagavatam 11, 25-26. In this way, the devotees' bodies transcend the material modes. Yet sometimes the devotees may take as their sense objects mundane sounds and so on, and that is material. Thus, a devotee's body can have two aspects, transcendental and material. According to one's level of devotional service, to that degree, the transcendental aspects of one's body become prominent, and the material aspects diminish. This transformation is described in the following verse from the Bhagavatam 11:42. Bhakti parishanubhavo vidaktir anyatra chaisha trika eka kalaha prapadyamanasya yatashnatakshus tushti pushti chut apayo nugasam. Devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. These three occur simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the same way that pleasure, nourishment, and relief from hunger become simultaneously and increasingly with each bite for a person engaged in eating. When one achieves totally pure love of God, the material portions of the body disappear and the body becomes completely spiritual. Nonetheless, so as not to disturb the false opinions of atheists and so as to protect the confidentiality of devotional service, the Supreme Lord usually has his illusory energy exhibit the demise of the gross body. An example of this is the disappearance of the Yadavas during the Maushala Lila. Sometimes, however, to proclaim the excellence of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna will allow a devotee to go back to Godhead in his self-same body, as in the case of Dhruva Maharaj. We can cite evidence for this point from the 25th chapter of the 11th canto, text 32. Yinemi nirjitak saumya guna jivinachita jaha bhakti yogena manishto madbhavaya prapadyate. A living entity who conquers the modes of material nature, which are manifested from the mind, can dedicate himself to me, Krishna, by the process of devotional service, and thus attain pure love for me. Here the Lord states that the defeat and destruction of that which is composed of the modes of material nature can be brought about only by the process of devotional service. Therefore, what we should understand from the present verse of the Bhagavatam is that the gopis who could not go to see Krishna had their inauspicious material bodies removed or burned up, while their auspicious spiritual bodies, far from being destroyed, simply grew to see the gopis felt by embracing Krishna in meditation. Thus their bondage was completely destroyed. By the help of Yogamaya, they got free from ignorance and also from the prohibitions of their husbands and other relatives. We should not make the mistake of explaining this falling away of the gopis' bodies as being a result of their dying. As the Lord himself states, 10:47-37, Ya maya kridata ratriam vane alabda rasa kalyanyo mapur mad birya chintaya. Some of those all auspicious gopis could not directly join me in enjoying the Rasa dance on that night in this Vrindavan forest. Yet still, they achieved my association by remembering my transcendental pastimes. By using the word kalyanya in this verse, the Lord implies, even though these gopis wanted to give up their bodies because of their husbands' prohibitions and the torment of separation from me, for them to die at the very beginning of the most auspicious festival of the Rasa dance would have been displeasing to me, and thus inauspicious. So they did not die. More evidence that the gopis who were prevented from going to see Krishna did not physically die is provided by a statement of Sri Shukadev's later in this canto, 1047-38, Ta uchur udavam pritas tat sandesha gatasmritihi. Then they, the gopis, replied to Uddhava, feeling satisfied because his message had reminded them of Krishna. Here we understand that the gopis speaking to Uddhava were the ones who had not had the chance to participate directly in the Rasa dance because of being held captive in their homes. Thus the conclusion is that they gave up their material bodies without dying. Parched by the intense heat of separation, their material bodies gave up their materiality and became purely spiritual, just like the bodies of such great devotees as Dhruva Maharaj. This is the meaning of the gopis giving up their bodies. The following analogy illustrates the statuses of the various gopis. By observing 7 or 8 ripe mangoes on a tree, we can ascertain that all the fruits on the tree are ripe. Then we can pick them all and bring them home, where in due course the sun's rays and other agents will make them fine-looking, fragrant, and delicious, fit to be offered to the king for his enjoyment. When the time comes for the king to take his meal, a discriminating servant can choose those fruits ready to offer him. From the eternal conjugal attraction to appearance of the fruits, and the servants can tell which are ripe in the middle, but still raw on the outside, and thus not yet fit for the king. By the application of a special heating process, these remaining fruits will become ripe in 2 or 3 days, and then they too will be ready to offer to the king. Similarly, among the Munichari gopis who took birth in Gokula, those who completely give up the materiality of their bodies and very early in life achieved purely spiritual bodies, were able to remain untouched by any other man. Thus, Yogamaya allowed them to join the Nityasiddha and other advanced gopis when they went to meet Krishna. Other Munichari gopis still retained some connection with the external material body, but even they, after being parched by the heat of separation from Sri Krishna, gave up the materiality of their bodies and assumed perfectly transcendental bodies, purified of all taint of contact with other men. On the night of the Rasa dance, Yogamaya sent some of these gopis out behind those who had already gone out. Others, who Yogamaya saw, still had a slight amount of contamination. She kept back to further purify with the heat of separation. And then she sent them out on some other night. After enjoying the pleasures of the Rasa dance and other pastimes with Krishna, the Munichari gopis who had participated went back to their homes when the night was over, as did the Nityasiddha and other advanced gopis. But now, Yogamaya protected these Munichari gopis from the material association of their husbands. In other words, these gopis were devoid of any selfish attachment for husband, children, and so on. Since these gopis were thoroughly immersed in the great ocean of love for Krishna, their breasts dried up, so they could not feed their infants, and to their family members they appeared as if haunted by ghosts. In conclusion, it is not unseemly that the gopis who were previously in material association joined in the Rasa dance. Some authorities, however, maintain that the gopis who were kept back in their houses did not have children. According to them, whenever such words as apatya, children, are used in verses yet to come, these words refer to the children of co-wives, so to adopted children, or to nephews and nieces. What a purport. You can get a sense of, if they were to fill out all the purports, the book would have gotten so huge, might not have been practical. Anyway, that was one purport. How many pages was that purport? It was quite long.
5.5.
5.5 pages. Yeah. Okay, let's go on. Text 12. Shri Parikshit Maharaj said, O sage, the gopis knew Krishna only as their lover, not as the supreme absolute truth. So how could these girls, their minds caught up in the waves of the modes of nature, free themselves from material attachment? Purport. King Parikshit was sitting in an assembly of great sages and other important personalities, listening to the words of Shukadev Goswami. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, as Shukadev began speaking of the gopis' conjugal love for Krishna, the king noticed the expressions on the faces of some of the more materialistic persons present there and realized the doubt lurking in their hearts. Therefore, although the king thoroughly knew the purport of Shukadev's words, he presented himself as experiencing personal doubt so that he could eradicate the doubt of others. That is why he asked this question. Text 13. Shukadev Goswami said, this point was explained to you previously, since even Shishupal, who hated Krishna, achieved perfection, then what to speak of the Lord's dear devotees? Purport. Although the spiritual nature of conditioned souls may be covered by illusion, Lord Krishna's spiritual nature is omnipotent and is never covered by any other power. In fact, all other powers are his energy and thus function according to his will. The Brahma Samhita 544 states, Shrishti Stiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Eka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vivarti Durga Ichchanu Rupam Apiyasya Chacheshtate Sa. The mighty Durga, who creates, maintains, and annihilates the material worlds, is the potency of the Supreme Lord, and she moves like his shadow according to his desire. Thus, because the Lord's spiritual influence does not depend on whether someone, let me read that again. Thus, because the Lord's spiritual influence does not depend on whether someone understands him or not, the gopis' spontaneous love for Krishna guaranteed their spiritual perfection. The great Madhvacharya quotes the following relevant passages from the Skanda Purana. Krishna kamas tada gopyas chaktva deham divam gataha samyak chanam parabrahma gyatva kalat padam yayuhu. At that time, the gopis who desired Krishna gave up their bodies and went to the spiritual world. Because they properly understood Krishna to be the supreme absolute truth, they transcended the influence of time. Purvam jnanasam yuktas tatrapi prayashastata atastasam padam brahma gatir asin nakamataha. In their previous lives, most of the gopis were already fully endowed with transcendental knowledge. It is because of this knowledge, not their lust, that they were able to attain the supreme Brahman. Natu jnanam rite moksho nanyak patetihi sritihi kama yukta tada bhaktir jnanam chato vimuktigaha. The Vedas declare that without spiritual knowledge, there is no valid path to liberation. Because these apparently lusty gopis possessed devotion and knowledge, they achieved liberation. Ato mokshe pitasam cha kamo bhaktya nuvartate mukti shabdodito chaidya prabritao dveshabhaginaha. Thus, even in their attainment of liberation, lust followed as a manifestation of their pure devotion. After all, what we call liberation was experienced even by envious persons like Shishupal. Bhakti margi pritam muktim agad vishno prasadataha kamas tvashavuva krichapi bhaktya vishno prasadakrit. By the mercy of Lord Vishnu, one who follows the path of devotional service gains liberation as a byproduct, and such a person's lusty desire, which would normally invoke misfortune, instead invokes the mercy of Vishnu when exhibited in pure devotion. Dveshi jiva yutam chapi bhaktam vishnur vimochayet ahoti karuna vishnu shishupalasya mokshanat. Lord Vishnu will save even a devotee possessed of an envious life. Just see the extreme mercy of the Lord as shown by his granting liberation to Shishupal. Shishupal was Lord Krishna's cousin. He was mortified when the Lord stole the gorgeous young Rukmini, whom Shishupal himself was hell-bent on marrying. For various other reasons also, Shishupal was consumed with envy of Lord Krishna. And finally, he insanely offended him in a great assembly called the Rajasuya sacrifice. At that time, Krishna nonchalantly cut off Shishupal's head and gave him liberation. Everyone present saw the effulgent soul of Shishupal rise out of his dead body and merge into the existence of the Lord. The seventh canto explains that Shishupal was an incarnation of a gatekeeper in the spiritual world, cursed to take birth on the earth as a demon. Since even Shishupal was liberated by the Lord, who took into consideration the whole situation, then what to speak of the gopis, who loved Krishna more than anything? Text 14. O King, the Supreme Lord is inexhaustible and immeasurable, and he is untouched by the material modes, because he is their controller. His personal appearance in this world is meant for bestowing the highest benefit on humanity. Purport. Since Lord Krishna descends to benefit mankind in general, why would he neglect innocent young girls who loved him more than anyone else did? Although the Lord awards himself to his pure devotees, he is avyaya, inexhaustible, because he is aprameya, immeasurable. He is also nirguna, free of material qualities, and thus those who intimately associate with him are on the same spiritual platform. He is gunatma, the controller or original personality behind the modes of nature, and it is specifically for this reason that he is free of them. In other words, because the modes of nature are his energy, they cannot act upon him. Text 15. Persons who constantly direct their lust, anger, fear, protective affection, feeling of impersonal oneness, or friendship toward Lord Hari are sure to become absorbed in thought of Him. Purport. Lord Krishna is pure spiritual existence, and those who somehow or other become attached to Him, absorbed in thoughts of Him, rise to the spiritual platform. This is the absolute nature of the Lord's personal association. With this verse, Shukadeva Goswami answers King Parikshit's question about the Gopis. After all, Shukadeva has begun to narrate Krishna's most intimate pastime, the Rasa dance, and Parikshit is cooperating to remove the doubts of others who are hearing or who in the future may hear this astonishing story. Srila Madhvacharya has quoted a statement from the Skanda Purana that emphatically declares persons like the Gopis to be liberated souls beyond the pale of material illusion. Bhaktya hi nitya kamitvam natu muktim bina bhavet atak kamitaya vapi muktir bhakti matam harao. Eternal conjugal attraction to Krishna, expressed in pure devotional service, cannot develop in one who is not already liberated. Thus, those who are devoted to Lord Hari, even in conjugal attraction, are already liberated. Srila Madhvacharya then quotes from the Padma Purana to clarify the essential point that one cannot be liberated simply by lusting after Lord Krishna, but rather only by possessing conjugal attraction in pure devotional service. Sneha bhakta sadadeva kamit senap sadastriyaha kaschit kaschin nakamena bhaktya kevalyayavatu. The demigods are always affectionately devoted to the Lord, and the young ladies of heaven called Apsaras have lusty feelings toward Him, although some of them have pure devotion for Him untainted by material lust. Only these latter Apsaras are ready for liberation, because without bona fide devotional service, one cannot possibly achieve liberation. Thus, devotional service is not yogyam or appropriate unless free from material lust. One should not take cheaply the Gopis' achievement of personal association with Lord Krishna in a conjugal relationship. To show the gravity of direct relationship with the Lord, Srila Madhvacharya has quoted the following verses from the Varaha Purana. Patit vena triyo pasyo brahmana me piteti cha pita mahatayanyesham tridashanam janardanaha. The goddess Lakshmi worships Lord Janardan as her husband. Lord Brahma worships him as his father, and the other demigods worship him as their grandfather. Praptima maho me bhagavan, praptima maho me bhagavan, iti sarva janasya tu, guru shri brahmano vishnu, suranam chaguror guru. Thus people in general should think, the Supreme Lord is my great-grandfather. Lord Vishnu is the spiritual master of Brahma, and thus the guru of the demigods. Gurur Brahmasya Jagato Daivam Vishnu Sanatanaha Ityivo Pasanam Karyam Nanyata Tu Katanchana. Brahma is the spiritual master of this universe, and Vishnu is the eternally worshipable deity. With this understanding, and not otherwise, one should worship the Lord. The above injunctions apply to Sarvajana, all people in general. Thus, one should follow these injunctions until one achieves the exalted platform of intimate relationship with the Supreme Lord. There is abundant evidence that the Gopis of Vrindavan were highly elevated, liberated souls, and thus their pastimes with Krishna are pure, spiritual affairs. Keeping this in mind, we can truly understand this chapter of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. We'll stop our reading tonight. We got a very nice first 15 chapters with the purports allowing us to enter into hearing this pastime with the proper understanding, the proper mentality. I'd like to offer my humble obeisances to the lotus feet of my godbrothers who wrote these purports and translated these verses. Very deep, very penetrating. Even you may say, well, this was Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, but you can't just translate Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and write the English like that. I know I worked very closely with Gopi Puranadana Prabhu, working on the Priya Bhagavatamrita, his translation, and the only translation of the Digdarshini commentary, the auto commentary by Sanatana Goswami of the Priya Bhagavatamrita. 450 years, no one can do it. I mean, you can say, well, someone could do it, but they didn't. So we can say no one had done it, truthfully. So I know that he had a lot to do with this, because he told me. So my obeisance is to him, to Ridananda Maharaj, who was up to the 60th chapter, was very instrumental in actually compiling and polishing and writing, and Dravida, who edited the English. These souls deserve our love and affection and veneration for bringing the world these commentaries of the acharyas in this nice way. Sometimes devotees try to translate these things without sufficient knowledge of what's in the Sanskrit and sufficient knowledge of the English, and therefore it comes out. They try to do. They're thinking they are doing literally, but it comes out without the sweet juice and the profound comprehension that comes from when a group of devotees of Prabhupada disciples do this together. I had that experience when I was assisting Gopi Puranadana Prabhu and Jayadvaita Maharaj in the Priya Bhagavatamrita. I'm losing my voice. What can I do? Hare Krishna. Change of weather, etc., etc. Kadashi, etc., etc. Okay, our open mic is ready and waiting. Yes, Ananta Rupa.
Thank you, Maharaj, for a wonderful reading. Couple of questions. The first has to do
I wish my voice was clearer, but I tried to read as clear as I can. I'm practicing a lot, but my voice wasn't quite there.
I personally didn't even notice.
Okay, thank you.
In text number 5, it says that some of the gopis were milking cows, but before that we heard that Krishna is playing the flute and all that. You don't typically milk cows late at night. So am I noticing something incongruent, or what am I missing here?
I don't know, maybe they were so ecstatic they started to milk them even when they're... I mean, there's a letter in which in which Prabhupada corrects a devotee who was thinking that he was thinking something about mismanagement, and he wrote this letter, kind of a complaint letter to Prabhupada. And in that letter, Prabhupada describes that the nature of the living being is that there's always some fault. And then he says, even in the spiritual world, there's some fault and competition. But it's different, because there's no malice. There's no inauspicity. So, and in one of the examples he uses, that one time Krishna became so bewildered by looking at Radharani that he tried to milk the bull instead of the cow. So if Krishna can try to milk the bull instead of the cow, I'm sure an ecstatic gopi could try to milk the cows at the wrong time. It's not out of the realms of possibility. I don't know. I've never read, that explanation, but it's certainly cogent and possible.
Thank you. Another question has to do with the purport of verse 11, and I'll read out that brief one of those sentences. It says, on the night of the Rasa dance, Yogamaya sent some of these gopis out behind those who had already still had a slight amount of contamination. She kept back to further purify with the heat of separation, and then she sent them out on some other night. What's very encouraging here is to find that, of course, they're very, very, very exalted devotees. There's no question of comparison here or relativity, but I'm just saying that it's very encouraging to see how your spiritual progress at a certain point is just on autopilot, and Yogamaya takes over.
Yeah.
So how does the process work in terms of sadhakas or kanishta adhikaris, that things just start happening for you because Krishna intervenes in your life?
Well, that's a very, very deep subject. You could take it right from the get-go. If you could narrow the question a little bit, because adoshada tata sarusanga chabhajana kriya, anartha vritti, dishta, rati or rati, asakta, prema. And in prema, then there's other stages of prema, up to mahabhava. So, what you're saying, it depends on where the process, how it works. When the Yoga Maya takes over, and when it's mixed. I thought that was one of the most interesting parts of these explanations. How it was that the gopis, when it said that they left their material bodies, that they didn't actually die. And it's saying that their bodies were partly material and partly spiritual. They were brought to the point of taking birth in the family of cowherds as gopi, as a beautiful young girl. But there was still some contamination just for having been born in the atmosphere, in the material atmosphere. And therefore, when they couldn't, for whatever reasons, it mentioned different reasons. One of them was perhaps they had relationship with their husbands and had children, But even in that state, it's stated very clearly that they just stood there and meditated on Krishna so intensely in separation. So that's the answer. And that's what Lord Chaitanya taught us as the proper method for getting Krishna's attention and Krishna's, I guess you could say, full mercy. So that, because it can only be done by Krishna's mercy, So And then while they were meditating on Krishna, they became so intensely in love with Krishna that Krishna appeared there and embraced them physically in their hearts. And that did it. That meant that their bodies from that point on were completely purified. And then they could later go on, go out. And after they came back from the Rasa dance, they appeared to just become haunted ladies with, dried up breasts. Their husbands weren't interested in those kinds of things anymore, And they were allowed to just be in the forest and be with Krishna.
Thank you.
But before that, even in the form of sadhana, because the Brishachari Gopis were sadhana, coming to the stage through their sadhana. So there were still some tinge left. That's why these things had to happen. So, by the process of associating with the holy name, the five items of devotional service, which are so potent that even by associating a little bit with even one of them, even not understanding what's going on, you become purified, like it or not. It's like Prabhupada used the example that a potent medicine, even if you don't know about how it works or what the content is and all that, if you take it according to the direction of the doctor, it'll work because it's potent medicine. So these five, Harinam without offense, or even trying to chant without offense, that's very important. Hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam regularly with attention and with attachment, living in a holy place, associating with Vaishnavas, especially hearing with Vaishnavas, and worshipping the deity. These 5 items. That's how it happens. Those 5 items purify you to the point where you gradually become attached to Krishna so much so that when you're in the process, in the beginning, when you're in the process of hearing or chanting or being with the devotees or like that, you taste something higher. In the beginning, it's just maybe a little deeper understanding, and then gradually, as that proportionally, as your taste increases, your taste for other things decreases. And that's the message. In the beginning, that's the method of judging. And as you go through, gradually it'll be attached enough that you lose your taste for anything else. Particularly potent is preaching Krishna consciousness. It's particularly potent because you're called upon to use all the resources, all the things you've learned and all the things you know, and you're forced to feel compassion for the person to try to convince them of the value and truth of Krishna consciousness. That, according to Gita, pleases Krishna the most. By pleasing Krishna the most, then he will do the magic. He does the magic. We can't. What magic can we do? Therefore, Lord Chaitanya, if you look at his life as a whole overview, he was first, like seemingly uninterested scholar, super knowledgeable, to the point where he would tease the devotees and defeat them in their he would defeat them, then he'd defeat his arguments, then he'd defeat those arguments, and after all, they just gave up, and they were so terrified of him that when they saw him going down the street, they would walk over to the other side of the street so they didn't come in contact with him, And then, of course, when he, went up to Gaya to do the pinda and the shraddha for his father when he left, then he met Ishwarapuri, who he had met before, Of course, he knew all these things. He knew what was going to happen all along, just like Krishna knew what was going to happen in the battle of Kurukshetra with Arjuna. But when he came back, he was in a whole nother. But then he started to preach. And then he took sannyas and he just went all over India preaching, making everybody. He convinced people who couldn't be convinced. The hardcore Mayavadis. He tried to preach to higher hardcore Mayavadis. They're impenetrable. And he showed how preaching, and then as a result of that, he met Ramananda Roy and then, stayed with him in Srup Damodar and just relished. But even within that time, there was the Patraparudra pastime and other pastimes of him, elevating other people to pure devotional service. That's how it happens. Pleasing the spiritual master, pleasing Lord Chaitanya, especially in this age.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. My pleasure. You got something over there, sir?
There's one from online.
Bhakta Austin is going to enlighten us with a question.
Question from cyberspace.
Oh, from cyberspace. Okay, who's there? 3 guesses.
This is from Lily Blaylock.
It's Lily Blaylock. Haribol, Lily.
She says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, I offer my obeisances to your lotus feet. When listening, I noticed that because Krishna engaged Yogamaya, she executed her service perfectly and made the exact arrangements for the Gopis to unite with Krishna. I was wondering how we too may gain the compassion of Yogamaya so that the material energy aids us in our service instead of hindering us. I understand that she is meant to test our devotion unto Krishna, so as Yogamaya's aid strictly under his instruction when a devotee has developed Krishna prema.
Mahamaya, the material energy, is an expansion of Yogamaya. So when a person comes to the point of being advanced in Krishna consciousness, then the same energy that became, that was an impediment, becomes the servant of the devotee and will help the devotee. That doesn't mean the material energy. It doesn't mean that you can do material activities and advance. The process is the same for everyone, although each one is an individual person and each one may have different tastes and different preferences for different kinds of devotional service. Krishna says, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyas chasmi tatvataha. You can only see Krishna face to face by devotional service. Devotional service means that anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma janabhitam, that you serve Krishna favorably in a way that's pleasing to him, not in a way that's pleasing to you, and free from the desire for the fruit, for any fruit for oneself, and free from the tendency to guess or speculate on how to please Krishna. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma janabhitam anukulyana krishnanu. Anukulyana krishnanu means following what Krishna likes, doing devotional service favorably to Krishna. Otherwise it's not pure devotional service, it's something else. And then you'll feel satisfied, your senses, your mind will feel satisfied, and you'll think that you're doing something right and advancing a devotional service. But you won't be able to touch the reciprocation that's being discussed here in this chapter. That's why it's very, very important. Rupa Goswami said that an advanced devotee follows all the regulated principles strictly and becomes purified by following the principles strictly under the order of the spiritual master and in the association of other devotees. And by that process, gradually as one becomes purified, then one gets attachment. And when I was answering Anantarupa's question, which is a little related to, in the same way that it's related to your question. And we have to go through the standard process. That's the point. All the acharyas say the same thing. Prabhupada particularly stressed it because he was the first pure devotee of Krishna to come to the Western world, where we are so attached and so materialistic. We have to follow in the footsteps of the previous acharyas, and we have to follow the rules and regulations of devotional service very strictly. And as our mind and senses become purified, then gradually that will kind of morph or transform into pure devotional service or spontaneous devotional service. It's not that, as some people think, you have to give up the regulations in order to get spontaneous love. You have to follow strictly, and the following of the regular principles strictly gradually purifies you, and that leads to Raganuga Bhakti, which is also in the realm of sadhana bhakti. So the realm of sadhana bhakti is divided into two, Vaidhi and Raganuga. But it's not that they're two different things, that they're both sadhana bhakti. And Rupa Goswami says that as you approach, Raganuga bhakti, then you still externally perform the rules and regulations even more strictly. As an example to others. So Yogamaya, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya, Yogamaya Samavritaha. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that I reserve the right to reveal myself to just anyone. So in this case, Mahamaya, it's Mahamaya that's covering the soul from Krishna. And it says Yogamaya because Mahamaya is an expansion of Yogamaya. So Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yogamaya Samavritaha Mudto Yam Namijanati Lokoman Ajamavyam. Krishna says, I reserve the right to not reveal myself to just anyone. For them I'm covered by my Maya. Mahamaya covers our remembrance of Krishna and our relationship with Krishna completely, but Yogamaya covers our remembrance that Krishna is God even when we're in relationship with Krishna. That's not to be imitated. Not to be imitated. It's out of the realms of possibility to imagine. It's not that we can think ourselves into pure devotional service. It's not that we can think that we want to become Gopi and then become Gopi by doing some kind of external sadhana. We have to perform pure devotional service under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado, yasya prasada nagati katopi. By the mercy of Krishna, we get spiritual master. By the mercy of spiritual master, we get Krishna. That's the way it works. Anyway, I hope that answers the question a little bit. It's a big subject. You can go on and on and on and on. Anyway, thank you, Lily, for your question. She's in Houston. Anything else?
about from our Bhakta Austin.
One thing that I thought really stood out was the way that Maharaj Parikshit was, he was noticing the way that people in the audience there were responding, and then he asked his question for their benefit.
Yes. So it's very important. Very important. That you can tie that idea to the fact that Srila Prabhupada, even though he knew everything, he was always speaking the basics, because there were always people in the room who needed to hear the basics. One time, when I don't remember who it was early on, and one of the early disciples said, Prabhupada, you speak of the Mayavadis so much in your purports, but here in the West, we don't have any Mayavadis. And Prabhupada looked right at me and said, actually, you're the Mayavadi. So rather than avoid it, go into it, find out what it is, and then find out that's who you are, and then correct yourself. Because that's what it boils down to. Lily's question also, what really boils down to taking responsibility for what we are and who we are and where we are, and taking the process very seriously, out of wanting to please Krishna, wanting to know who we are in relationship to Krishna. I mean, the philosophy is Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sabhabala Manoy. We all have love of Krishna in our hearts. And Krishna Prema, or Krishna Siddha Krishna Prema, means that relationship is there. So that relationship, if you're a gopi or a cowherd boy or whatever in the spiritual world, that's your relationship. I'm not trying to say that it can't change. Krishna can do anything. But in general, our relationship is fixed. And by hearing and hearing and hearing properly, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur talks about incidental hearing. Don't just go to one place that you are attracted to and hear just that, but rather go through the whole Bhagavatam and the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita, the whole Gita, and then go again and again and again and again. As you do that, and the purification that comes from doing that is so intense that gradually a natural, special appreciation for a particular pastime will dawn in the heart, but not on the mental plane. It will dawn in the heart because it's natural and spontaneous. And even then, our acharyas say, keep it to yourself and just keep hearing and keep being, following everything. And gradually, the Lord will take you back. Reveal Himself and take you back. I mean, it's there. I mean, it's an exalted phase that we just heard about when some of the gopis weren't fully purified. But it's the same process. It's just that was more elevated. We have to go through it in the beginning stages. And as far as I can see, Srila Prabhupada's stuck to what was needed to be able to fix us up. He's kept on preaching right to the end. Okay, we've been going almost 2 hours now. Something else? Someone else?
Rati Manjari just asked.
Okay, Rati, I thought you were going to say something.
She says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my respectful obeisances. I like the point on how the advanced devotees keep on practicing the rules and regulations for the benefit of others. This shows nicely how even the pure devotees who taste the highest love still act as servants of Krishna, who wants to deliver all souls. So they go on helping others rather than selfishly enjoying their love of God.
Everyone is a servant of Krishna. The Dasya Rasa is the basis of all the rasas. And therefore, when Draupadi was asking the queens, when she met them, and how did you become Krishna's wife? She was really curious. And each one of them explained how Krishna married her, went through it. And then at the end she said, and therefore I was allowed in his house as his maidservant. That's their mentality. So even the highest, or let's not say highest, I don't like that term. It's being bandied around nowadays. High, we need the higher topics. There's nothing high and low in the spiritual world. Krishna loves everyone. And what's the relationship of one person in the spiritual world is the highest one for them. It's the only one for them. And nobody thinks, oh, I didn't become a gopi. They get to the spiritual world, they're a cowboy, and they say, oh, I didn't become a gopi, It just doesn't, that mentality just doesn't exist in the spiritual world. That's only in the material world that we think like that. So, yes. Because as a person actually advances, we talked about this today, I was talking in Antarupa today, as a person advances in devotional life, one of the things that happens is they feel less and less advanced. And when it comes to the perfection, the topmost devotee, Radharani, how does she feel? She says it right in her own words. All living beings are better devotees than me. All the devotees are devotees except for me. That's how she feels. So if these devotees who go prematurely to Radha Kund or whatever, and then look back at ISKCON or whatever, or their gurus or whatever, and then think now we have the real thing, now we have the highest, now we have the real guru, like that. They cannot be going towards Radha Bhav or Gopi Bhav. They cannot. Because if you're going towards Gopi Bhav, then you must be feeling less and less qualified, less and less qualified, less and less qualified, until you finally come to the perfection. The gopis never think themselves qualified. They never think they're qualified to be with Krishna. The cowherd boys sometimes do. They sometimes fight with Krishna, and they're going to, we'll show you. Come on, we'll wrestle and we'll. But the gopis don't ever think like that. That's a big subject. I'll save that for another. Maybe as we go along on these chapters, we can come to those things. Who am I? I'm nobody. I don't understand anything, but all I know is sure, as we advance, we feel less advanced. That's sure. That's our Siddhanta. Okay, I'm going to stop there. First of all, I lost my voice a long time ago, but I'm soldiering on, as they say. So thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with everyone in this auspicious moment of beginning the Rasa Panchayaya chapters, explaining the more intimate relationships with Krishna in the spiritual world. Not higher, but more intimate. And all of the other rasas and relationships and living beings that are there, they add to it. It takes everyone to make it perfect. You cannot imagine the spiritual world with just Krishna and Gopis. I mean, if the evolution was everyone should become Gopi, then just try to imagine the spiritual world being just Krishna and Gopis, and no one else. No trees, no flowers, no cows, no cowherd boys, no Yamuna, no Govardhan, just Gopi, just Krishna and Gopis. It's ludicrous. You can't even think of it. Because all those things make for the perfection of their relationship. Okay, getting carried away again. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Sri Rasa Pancha Jayaya ki jai. All glories to all the devotees of the Lord. See you tomorrow night in Govardhan. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Now we're in Hastinapur. Tomorrow night we'll see you in Govardhan. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.